My name is Diana. I'm 32, and I oversee operations for a restaurant group that serves around 3,000 guests a week across 4 locations. I understand the journey of a check from the kitchen to the table the way most people understand tying their shoes. So when my parents called me after 3 years of complete silence and invited me to dinner to make things right, there was one question I should have asked before saying yes. Who else is going to be there? But I didn't ask. I drove 40 minutes to the Belvedere, walked through the front doors, and saw 16 members of my family already seated around a long table. The table was covered with lobster tails, Wagyu steaks, and a $400 bottle of Bordeaux they had already opened before I even parked my car. My father looked up from the head of the table, smiled like he had been waiting for this moment, and said the sentence I had spent my entire life earning. "You're paying, right? You owe us that much." He thought he had backed me into a corner. He had no idea that 2 quiet sentences to our waiter were about to change the entire evening. And he definitely wasn't prepared for what his own credit card was going to reveal to the whole family 15 minutes later. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where ordinary people face impossible family moments and still leave with their dignity intact. If you have ever been the person expected to pay, fix everything, and stay quiet, this story is for you. Leave a comment, make sure you subscribe, and let me take you back a few weeks before that dinner. Before the parking lot was filled with cars I recognized, before my father tried to hand me a bill that looked more like a house payment than a dinner receipt. I need to explain who I was on the morning that invitation arrived, because that was the version of me they were counting on. What they did not know was that I had already stopped being her. I manage 4 restaurants. I do not own them. I manage them. I worked my way up from clearing tables at a steakhouse in Knoxville when I was 17, still smelling like fryer oil on the school bus the next morning. I became a hostess at 19, a server at 21, a floor manager by 24, and a regional operations director by 30. I am not rich. I own a 2-bedroom condo that is fully paid off. I have a retirement account I never touch, and I allow myself exactly one small luxury: sparkling water. Still or sparkling? That is what I order every single time I eat out. My staff thinks it is just a funny little habit. It is not. When you grow up paying for everyone else's steak, you learn to keep your own bill small enough that you can walk away whenever you need to. That morning, I was sitting in my office reviewing a vendor contract for imported olive oil. It was the kind of ordinary Tuesday that makes you forget not everyone's life runs on spreadsheets, margins, and inventory numbers. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced down and felt a chill settle deep in my chest. After 3 years of silence, there it was. A notification from the family group chat. The same group chat I had been removed from on the day they decided I was the problem. Family had added me back. I stared at that notification for a full minute before opening it. Family. With the little red heart emoji my mother had chosen 6 years earlier when she first created the chat. Back then, it was used for Thanksgiving recipes, holiday plans, and pictures of Brooke's dog. I had not seen that little heart in 3 years. The chat history was empty. Nothing above my mother's newest message. That meant they had either cleared the conversation or, more likely, they had a second group chat without me the entire time. Mom's message was warm, careful, almost like she had practiced it. She said she and Dad had been doing a lot of reflecting and wanted to invite me to dinner at the Belvedere so we could start healing as a family. Just the 4 of us, she wrote, her, Dad, me, and Brooke. A small dinner, a fresh start. Then 30 seconds later, she sent another message. One line that should have told me everything. Family takes care of family, sweetheart. It's time we remembered that. Family takes care of family. She used to say that when I was 19, and she needed my server tips to help cover the electric bill. She said it when I was 23, and Dad needed someone to sign with him on a truck. She said it when Brooke's first apartment fell through, and I quietly paid the deposit. In my family, family takes care of family had always meant one thing. Diana takes care of family. I read the message twice. Then I noticed what was missing. My mother had not said she was sorry. She had not said they were wrong. She had not said they wanted to make things right. She said it was time to heal. No one was responsible. No one had to name what happened. No one had to admit anything. I typed back, "I'll be there." Then I placed my phone face down on the desk and returned to the olive oil contract, pretending my hands were not shaking. 3 3 years earlier, my sister Brooke decided she wanted to open a cafe. Not after writing a business plan, not after doing market research, not after studying the numbers. She wanted a cafe because she had seen one in Charleston with exposed brick, warm lighting, and a natural menu, and she thought, I could do that. She was 26. She had never managed so much as a lemonade stand, and she needed a $75,000 small business loan. The bank agreed, but only with someone else signing alongside her. That person was supposed to be me. Mom called on a Sunday. Dad sat beside her with his arms crossed, already irritated before I had even finished saying hello. Brooke needed the loan. The cafe was her dream. I had good credit, a stable job, and a long history of saying yes. Just sign the papers, Diana. I asked to see the business plan first. Brooke did not have one. I asked about projected margins, lease terms, and supplier contracts. Brooke stared at me like I had personally insulted her cooking. Mom's voice went cold. She's your sister. You do not need a spreadsheet to love your sister. I said no. Not because I did not love Brooke. I did. But I had spent too many years in the restaurant industry watching people pour their savings into ideas with no structure underneath them. I knew exactly what $75,000 of someone else's obligation looks like in the middle of the night when the lights are off, the doors are closed, and the payment is still due. Dad stood up. He pointed toward the door and said the sentence that closed it for the next 3 years. If you will not help this family, then you are not part of it. I drove home. By the next morning, I had been removed from family. No one called, no one texted. For 3 years, I became the daughter who, in their version of the story, cared more about money than her own sister. Here is the part that is difficult to admit. The silence nearly unraveled me. Not because they were right. I knew they were not. It hurt because I missed being needed. That was the real wound. It took me 2 years and a therapist named Dr. Kwan to finally name it. I had been the family fixer since I was 17. My first paycheck went toward groceries. My tax refund went toward Mom's dental work. When Dad's transmission went out, I paid for the repair and told him it had been covered under warranty because I knew he would never accept help from his 22-year-old daughter. When Brooke got married, I paid for the florist, the photographer, and half the reception. And I smiled while Mom gave a toast about raising 2 strong daughters. 2 strong daughters. 1 bill. I did not do those things because I was generous. I did them because somewhere around the time I was 15, I learned the quickest way to keep peace in my family was to make sure nobody had to ask me twice. Ask once, Diana pays. Everyone smiles. Dinner stays quiet. I trained them. I taught my parents that my wallet worked like a vending machine. Put in guilt, get a check. And when that machine finally said it was no longer available, they did not try to understand why. They simply walked away. So when Mom's message appeared after 3 years of silence, that same old reflex sparked in my chest like a muscle I had not used in a long time. Go. Fix it. Pay whatever it costs. Make everything quiet again. But then I heard Dr. Kwan's voice, steady and clear. You taught them you would always pay. That was your mistake to correct, not by paying more, but by stopping. My coworker Jess told me not to go. She sat across from me at lunch the day after the invitation and said, Diana, this has setup written all over it. I remember laughing because Jess had never even met my family, and somehow she could see the situation more clearly than I could. My sous chef, Marco, said the same thing, just shorter. Don't. But by then, I had already made up my mind. Not because I believed them, not because I expected an apology. I wanted to sit across from my parents and see whether 3 years had changed anything. I wanted to know if the silence had taught them something, or if it had only been a longer version of the same conversation we had always had, the one where I was expected to listen, agree, and pay. I wanted closure, even if closure simply meant confirming that the door was closed for good. There was something else, too. And I am going to be honest about it, because I think some of you will understand. I missed my mother. Not the version of her who planned things behind a smile. Not the version who kept score. I missed the mother who taught me how to make cornbread in a cast-iron skillet when I was 9, singing along to Dolly Parton while the butter melted. That mother had not called me in 3 years either, but some nights I could still hear the Dolly Parton. So I told Jess I was going, I told Marco I would be fine, then I told myself the same thing, and for a moment I almost believed it. I made one rule, one dinner, civil conversation, no money, and if anything felt wrong, I would leave before dessert. I wrote it on a sticky note and pressed it to my steering wheel that morning. One dinner, then home. That sticky note was still there when I pulled into the Belvedere's parking lot and started counting cars. I dressed simply on purpose. Black slacks, a gray blouse I usually wore to vendor meetings, flat shoes, no jewelry except the small silver watch I bought myself the year I became regional director. I did not wear it to impress anyone. I wore it because I had earned it. It kept good time, and that felt like enough. I did not want to walk into the Belvedere looking like I was trying to prove something. My family already believed I showed off my success. The truth was, I drove a 9-year-old Honda and meal prepped on Sundays like half the country. The drive took 40 minutes. I played no music. My hands stayed at 10 and 2. Somewhere near the highway merge, my stomach started to tighten in a way I recognized immediately. It was the same feeling I get when a walk-in cooler stops working on a Friday night, and I already know the next 6 hours are going to be difficult. Instinct. My body understood something my mind was still trying to negotiate. I almost turned around at the exit ramp. Almost. But then I thought about that cornbread. I thought about Dr. Kwan's voice. And I kept driving. The Belvedere sat at the end of a strip of shops I had not visited in years. It was on the expensive side of town, the kind of place where the parking lot is landscaped and the hosts wear all black. Dad's truck was in the 3rd row. Mom's sedan was right beside it. Fine. Then I saw Aunt Linda's white Buick, Uncle Greg's SUV, Brooke's hatchback, still carrying the bumper sticker from the cafe that had closed 11 months after it opened. Then 3 more cars I recognized, and 2 I did not. My stomach sank before I even opened my door. Just the 4 of us, Mom had written. I counted 9 vehicles. I sat in my car for 2 full minutes with the engine off, my hands still on the steering wheel, staring at that sticky note. One dinner, then home. The smart thing would have been to reverse out of that parking space, drive 40 minutes back to my condo, heat up leftover soup, and never think about the Mayfield family reunion I had not been warned about. Or maybe I had been invited to it. Just not honestly. But I got out. I straightened my blouse. I locked the car. And I walked toward the entrance because I was 32 years old. I had spent 3 years learning how not to run from uncomfortable rooms. And I was not going to start running again in the restaurant parking lot on a Thursday evening. The front doors were heavy glass with brass handles, the kind that seemed to whisper that the entrees started at $42 before you even saw a menu. Inside, the lobby smelled like rosemary, warm bread, and money. A hostess in a black dress smiled and checked her screen. Mayfield? I nodded. She nodded back. Your party is already seated. She said it the way hosts say things when they have been managing a large group for a while and are trying very hard not to look overwhelmed. I recognized the expression. I had worn it myself 1,000 times. She picked up a menu, just one. Then she led me toward the back of the dining room. I heard them before I saw them. Laughter, glasses clinking, Aunt Linda's unmistakable cackle cutting through the low murmur of every other table. One dinner, then home. I turned the corner and saw the table. 16 chairs. Every single one filled except the chair at the bottom. Directly across from my father, the table stretched across the entire drive. White linen, heavy silverware, candles in low crystal holders. There were platters I could identify from 10 feet away. Lobster tails spread across crushed ice, Wagyu sliders stacked on a tiered stand, a charcuterie board nearly the size of a coffee table, and in the center sat a bottle of wine I recognized from vendor tastings, a 2016 Saint-Emilion Grand Cru, retail price around $400, already half empty. They had been there for a while, and they had not been holding back. The hostess paused at the edge of the alcove and glanced at me with a look I understood perfectly from every restaurant I had ever worked in. Good luck. Then she leaned slightly closer and said quietly, Your father put a card down to hold the reservation, just so you know. We require one for parties over 12. I stored that sentence the way I store every important operational detail. Silently. Completely. Permanently. His card was on file. He had secured the table. And somehow I already knew the bill was never meant to land in front of him. My mother noticed me first. She stood up with both arms open, and every head at the table turned at once. "Diana, oh sweetheart, look at you." Then came applause, actual applause, as if I were some guest of honor returning after a long journey, not the daughter they had shut out for nearly 1,000 days. Uncle Greg whistled. Aunt Linda pressed a cloth napkin under her eyes, like the moment had moved her deeply. Brooke lifted her wine glass and smiled, the kind of smile that showed teeth but carried no warmth. 16 people, lobster, wagyu, a $400 bottle of Bordeaux. Just the 4 of us, Mom had written. I sat down. Because what else do you do when 16 people are watching you? The chair has already been pulled out and a waiter is filling your water glass before your purse even touches the floor. I sat down and I smiled. That is what 15 years of working the front of house teaches you. How to smile while your mind is quietly reading the room at full speed. Mom settled back into her chair, glowing like she had planned something wonderful. "We wanted it to be a surprise," she said. "The whole family together, just like old times." "I thought it was just the 4 of us," I said. Mom waved her hand like the detail barely mattered. "Well, once Linda heard, and then Greg, and then your cousin Tara, it just grew. You know how family is." I knew exactly how family was. I looked around the table. Dad sat at the head, cutting into a wagyu slider like it was the centerpiece of a holiday meal. Brooke sat to his left, phone in one hand, wine in the other, scrolling through something I could not see. Aunt Linda and Uncle Greg held the middle of the table. Cousins I had not spoken to since a Thanksgiving 5 years earlier filled the rest. Tyler, Megan, Jake, 2 wives I had met once, and Aunt Linda's neighbor, a woman I had never seen before in my life, who was somehow eating lobster at whatever occasion this was supposed to be. The wine was moving freely. The platters were already half cleared. They had been there at least an hour before I arrived, and they had ordered like the menu was someone else's responsibility. Mom leaned across the table and squeezed my hand. "See? Family takes care of family." There it was again. The same 5 words, wrapped in warmth, pointed straight at me. I squeezed her hand back and said nothing. I was counting plates. My father is the kind of man who orders for the table. He does not ask. He announces. He waved the waiter over, a young man who looked barely out of his teens and seemed to be running on coffee and pure focus, then started listing additions without even opening a menu. "Another round of lobster tails, 2 more wagyu plates, and bring another bottle of that Bordeaux. The Grand Cru, the good one." He said, "the good one," loudly enough for the tables nearby to hear. Then Dad pulled his credit card from his wallet and held it between 2 fingers, like a magician showing the audience a coin before the trick. "Put it all on this," he told the waiter. "We're celebrating tonight." The waiter's name tag said Nathan. He wrote everything down, nodded, and disappeared toward the kitchen with the look of someone who badly needed a quiet minute. I watched my father tuck the card back into his wallet and pat it once, like it had performed well. Something was off. I grew up watching Dad argue over the price of a muffler. I had seen him return a shirt because the discount tag was missing. Raymond Mayfield did not order $400 bottles of wine. He did not wave credit cards around like victory flags. This was a performance, and it was meant for me. "Look how well we are doing, Diana. Look how little we needed you." Except the truck in the parking lot was the same one from 5 years ago, still carrying the dent in the rear quarter panel he never repaired. And Mom's handbag, the coach purse she had carried since I was in high school, sat on the chair beside her with a cracked strap held together by a safety pin. They were putting on a show. I just did not know the price of admission yet. The small remarks started around the second bottle. Aunt Linda leaned across Uncle Greg and said, "Must be nice running all those fancy restaurants while the rest of us still watch every dollar." She laughed when she said it, the way people laugh when they want you to understand they are not really joking. Cousin Megan asked if I ever felt guilty living so comfortably while my parents were going through a rough patch. I did not know about a rough patch. Nobody had told me there was a rough patch. Brooke, without looking up from her phone, added, "She wouldn't know. She hasn't been around." Each comment landed with the careful rhythm of something they had talked through before. Not fully rehearsed, maybe, but aligned. Like a choir finding the same note without anyone needing to lead them. They had been talking about me, about my absence, about my money, about my life, and they had arrived that night with one shared version of the story. Diana left. Diana has plenty. Diana owes. Aunt Linda delivered the main message. She reached across the table, took my hand like she was offering comfort, and said, "Family doesn't keep score, dear." I almost laughed. Family does not keep score? This from a woman who once stopped speaking to her own daughter-in-law for 6 months because of where she had been seated at Thanksgiving. But I did not laugh. I pulled my hand back gently and picked up my glass. Sparkling water. The only thing in front of me. The only thing I had ordered. The contrast was almost funny. 16 people surrounded by lobster and Bordeaux, and me at the end of the table with San Pellegrino, looking like the responsible one at someone else's celebration. Nathan passed behind me and I caught his eye. "Just the water tonight?" he asked quietly. "Just the water," I said. He nodded like he understood something I had not said out loud. "Let me tell you about Nathan." He was maybe 19 or 20, thin in the way restaurant kids often are before they learn how to eat between busy shifts. He moved quickly but carefully, the way new servers do when the table is too large, the order is too complicated, and they know one wrong plate could turn into a conversation with a manager they cannot afford. I recognized everything about him because I had been him, 17 years old, 2 tables behind, learning that the guests who demanded the most attention were often the ones who appreciated it the least. He was handling our 16 top almost entirely on his own. A busser appeared every now and then to clear plates, but Nathan was managing the orders, the refills, the extra requests, and Aunt Linda asking for more butter 3 separate times in 20 minutes. He never complained. He never showed frustration. He refilled my sparkling water without being asked, and when he set the glass back down, he caught me watching the table with an expression I probably should have hidden better. "Long night?" he murmured. For 1 second, I almost told him the truth. Instead, I simply said, "You're doing great." He blinked, almost startled, like he had forgotten customers were allowed to say things like that. Then he straightened by maybe half an inch and moved on to refill Uncle Greg's glass. I watched him walk away and thought about the younger version of me, the girl who used to balance 4 plates along her forearm and stand alone in the walk-in cooler on the hardest nights just to pull herself together. That girl had no idea she would one day end up on the other side of a table like this, sitting across from the same family that had turned her into the fixer, the helper, and the emergency fund, being asked, without anyone saying it directly, to write one more check. But she would have understood what I was about to do. She would have understood it perfectly. I excused myself to the restroom around the 40-minute mark. I needed 2 minutes away from Aunt Linda's commentary and a door I could lock behind me. The Belvedere's restroom was the kind with cloth hand towels, lavender soap, and a full-length mirror that somehow made you look a little better than you felt. Which was impressive, because at that moment, I felt like I had swallowed a stone. I turned on the faucet and pressed cold water against my wrists, the way you do when you need your heart to slow down enough for your mind to think clearly. Then I saw it. A phone sitting on the edge of the marble countertop. The screen was still lit. The case was covered in daisy stickers. Brooke's phone. She must have come in before me and left it there when she got distracted. Brooke left things everywhere. It was one of the few habits we actually shared. I did not plan to look. I want to be clear about that. But the screen was bright, and the notification banner at the top was from a group chat I had never been added to. The preview was enough to stop my hand halfway to the towel. The group was called Dinner Plan. 3 members. Mom, Dad, Brooke. The newest message had been sent 4 days earlier. It was from Mom. The preview showed words I can still repeat from memory. "Don't tell Diana it's everyone. She won't dare." The rest was cut off by the edge of the banner. My pulse stayed steady. My hands were dry. I picked up the phone the same way I would pick up a vendor invoice when the numbers did not match. Not furious, not shocked, just confirming what the details had already been telling me. I scrolled up. The full message read, "Don't tell Diana it's everyone. Once she's there with the whole family watching, she won't dare say no. She never could handle a scene." Below that, Dad had written, "Just make sure she sits at my end. I'll handle the ask." 2 minutes later, Brooke had added, "Order the good stuff before she gets there. Once it's already on the table, she can't exactly send it back, LOL." I kept scrolling. 3 weeks of messages, Mom coordinating who was coming. Linda is in, Greg is in, Megan says yes if there is wine. Dad was quieter, mostly focused on details. Parking, reservation time, how to make the invitation sound casual. Then came the messages that made the room feel colder. Mom, 10 days earlier. The bank called again Thursday. We need to figure something out before June. Dad replied, Diana can carry us through spring. She has more than enough. And then the line that landed harder than all the others. Mom again, 8 days earlier. It's not asking for money, it's letting her back into the family. She should be grateful we're even giving her this chance. Grateful. They wanted me to be grateful for the opportunity to be led into a 16-person dinner I had not agreed to at a restaurant I would not have chosen, so I could pay for a bill I did not create and solve a problem no one had bothered to explain. For the same family that shut me out the last time I said no. I set Brooke's phone back on the counter, screen down, exactly where I had found it. I washed my hands. I looked at myself in that overly kind mirror and thought, I know what you are doing. I know what this costs. And for the first time in 15 years, I am not going to pay it. I stood in that restroom holding the truth in both hands, and the strangest part was how calm I felt. Not empty, not furious, clear. The way a kitchen gets quiet right before the dinner rush begins. Everything in place, nothing wasted, every station ready. If you have ever realized you were valued more for what you could provide than for who you were, then you know exactly how cold that tile floor felt under my shoes. Stay with me. Subscribe, because what I did next was planned in the time it takes to dry your hands. I walked back to the table wearing the same expression I use when a health inspector arrives without warning. Pleasant, unreadable, fully operational. Nobody noticed anything different. Aunt Linda was telling a story about her neighbor's separation. Uncle Greg was working through his third lobster tail. Brooke had already reclaimed her phone from the restroom and was scrolling again, completely unaware. But I noticed things now that I had missed before, or maybe things I had not allowed myself to see. Mom kept glancing at Dad's wallet on the table, quick little flicks of her eyes like she was watching a countdown. Dad's laugh was half a beat too loud, the way people laugh when they are nervous and trying to cover it with volume. The second bottle of wine was nearly empty, and nobody had suggested slowing down. Because why would they? They were not paying. I was. That was the whole point of the evening. Every lobster tail, every Wagyu slider, every pour of that $400 Bordeaux. It was all another brick in the wall they were building around me. High enough, they hoped, that I would not climb out without creating the very scene I had spent my whole life trying to avoid. I started asking questions, casual questions, the kind you ask when you are catching up after 3 years, not the kind you ask when you already know the answers and are simply watching people choose what version of the truth they want to tell. How's the cafe, Brooke? Brooke's wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. Oh, she said. We closed. The market just wasn't there. She said it quickly, like removing a bandage she had already practiced pulling off. That's too bad, I said. How long did it last? 11 months. Mom stepped in before the silence had a chance to settle. Brooke is exploring other options. She has so many talents. I nodded. Then I turned to Dad. How's the contracting business, Dad? Still doing commercial builds? Dad's jaw tightened for half a second. It was a tell I had noticed before I was even old enough to drive. Between projects right now, he said. The economy's been rough. You know how it is. I did know how it was. I knew because I had read the words, "The bank called again Thursday," on his wife's phone 10 minutes earlier. I knew because the dent in his truck was still there. And I knew because the man who had just ordered 2 rounds of lobster and a $400 bottle of wine was sitting across from me, performing financial confidence like a community theater actor performing Shakespeare. Loud, committed, and not especially convincing to anyone who had seen the real thing. I just nodded and let them keep talking. People tell you everything when they think you are the bank. They told me about the kitchen renovation they had put on hold, about the vacation they had decided to skip this year, about how things had been a little tight, but nothing they could not handle. Every sentence was a window into a house I could now see was full of smoke, while everyone stood outside pretending it was just barbecue. Then the pressure started building the way it always does in my family. Not with a direct question, with a current. Small comments, all moving in the same direction. Casual enough to deny, coordinated enough to close in. Aunt Linda sighed and said, must be so rewarding, doing so well for yourself like that. Some of us are not so lucky. Cousin Tyler, who I had not spoken to since Obama's second term, added, "Yeah, Diana, you really landed on your feet. That's awesome." Even Uncle Greg, who normally communicated almost entirely through sports metaphors, managed to say, "You hit a home run out there, kid." Each compliment was another brick, and every brick pointed the same way. You have money. We see it, and we are reminding you in front of witnesses. Mom directed it all from the center of the table, like a conductor who knew the music by heart. A nod toward Linda, a smile at Tyler, a gentle hand on Dad's arm when he started speaking too soon. She was good. She had always been good. I used to think my mother was simply warm and loved bringing people together. Now I understood something different. She was a project manager with a 20-year track record, and her biggest successful project was sitting at the end of the table drinking sparkling water. Then the dessert menus arrived. Aunt Linda ordered creme brulee without looking at the price. Brooke asked for the chocolate souffle, which required a 20-minute lead time. That meant she had ordered it before I ever sat down. Of course she had. They were increasing the bill the way people do when they believe someone else is responsible for it. No limit, no hesitation, not one glance at the right side of the menu. My sparkling water was down to the ice. Brooke was the one who finally cracked the surface. She had already had 3 glasses of Bordeaux by then, enough to wear down whatever small filter she usually kept between her thoughts and her mouth. And that filter had never been especially strong to begin with. She leaned across the table, glass in hand, and grinned at me like we were sharing a private joke. "Relax, big sister. It's just dinner. You can afford it." I set my water down. Afford what? This. She gestured toward the table, the platters, the wine, the 16 place settings, the creme brulee and chocolate souffle being prepared by a kitchen that had no idea it was serving the final course of a setup. "We ordered the good stuff since you're treating." She said it so casually. "Since you're treating." As if it had already been decided in a meeting I had not been invited to, which of course it had. The table went quiet for about 3 seconds. That does not sound long until you are the person sitting inside it. Mom shot Brooke a look that said, "Too early." Brooke shrugged like she had knocked over a vase she had no intention of picking up. Uncle Greg suddenly became very interested in his lobster. Aunt Linda discovered something fascinating about her napkin. Dad cleared his throat. The silence lasted long enough for Nathan to arrive with a fresh bottle of sparkling water and place it beside my glass. And in that moment, I realized 2 things. First, Nathan was the only person at that table who had poured me something without expecting anything in return. Second, Brooke had just said out loud what every single person in that room already knew. I was the target. This entire dinner was a trap, and every lobster tail was proof. What happened next was an accident, and I almost felt bad for Cousin Megan when it landed. I think she was honestly just trying to make conversation. Megan was the one family member who had sent me a birthday text during the 2nd year of silence, just a short message that said she was thinking of me. I never replied, and I still felt guilty about that. "So, Diana," she said, "Mom told me you got a big promotion. Something about running a bunch of restaurants now?" I kept my answer simple. "Regional Operations Director, 4 locations." Megan nodded, clearly impressed. "That is amazing. So you are in charge of all of them?" Staffing, vendors, compliance, financials, everything from the loading dock to the check. I said it the way I would say it in a meeting. Factual, no polish. But the word financials landed on that table like something heavy dropping in a quiet room. Aunt Linda's fork stopped moving. Uncle Greg looked up from his plate for the first time in 10 minutes. Brooke's thumb froze over her phone. Even Dad shifted in his chair, like he was suddenly recalculating. They knew I was doing well. They had built the entire evening around the idea that I was doing well enough to pay. But hearing the details was different. The scope, the responsibility, the authority behind what I actually did. They had imagined me as a well-paid server who had gotten lucky. They had not imagined someone who could read a profit and loss statement faster than they could read a menu. Someone who managed vendor contracts worth more than their house. Someone who knew, almost down to the cent, what 16 lobster tails and 2 bottles of Grand Cru Bordeaux would cost before the check ever reached the table. The room adjusted around that information. I could feel it happen, like a change in the air before a storm. The power had not fully shifted yet, but it had loosened. Dad waited until dessert. I will give him that. He was strategic. The soufflé had arrived. The crème brûlée had been cracked open. The second bottle of Bordeaux was sitting upside down in the ice bucket. The table was warm, full, and slow with sugar and wine. Every face carried that soft satisfaction people get from a meal they do not plan to pay for. Dad set down his fork, then he folded his hands at the edge of the table. It was a gesture I had seen before signing contracts, before giving long speeches at Thanksgiving, before telling me, when I was 23, that he needed someone to sign with him just this once. He looked at me, not coldly, not cruelly, with the expression of a man who believed he was being completely reasonable. "Diana," he said with a small smile, "you're paying, right? You owe us that much." 5 words. You owe us that much. 16 people heard them. Nathan, who was refilling Aunt Linda's coffee behind me, heard them. The couple at the next table, pretending not to listen, heard them too. My mother nodded. My sister smirked. My aunt reached for another pat of butter like the matter had already been settled. You owe us. 3 years of silence, and not one person at that table had said they were sorry. Not one person had said they were wrong. Not one person had said they missed me for any reason that did not seem connected to what I could provide. You owe us that much. I looked at my father across a table covered in the remains of a meal I had not ordered. I looked at the family I had not been told was coming. I looked down at the glass of water in front of me, the only thing I had accepted all night. And I felt something I had not expected. Relief. Because the decision I had been afraid to make had just been made for me. I did not answer right away. I have learned that silence can do more work than words in a room full of people who are used to being agreed with. 3 seconds, then 5. The kind of silence that makes 16 people shift in their chairs, reach for their glasses, and suddenly become very interested in the wall behind you. For 15 years, I had paid so no one would create an uncomfortable moment. I had picked up checks, signed papers, covered deposits, dental bills, and florist invoices, all because the cost of saying no was a room exactly like this one, a room full of staring faces, a room full of expectation, a room where everyone silently understood that Diana's love was measured in dollars, and Diana's quiet cooperation could be counted on when the pressure was high enough. 15 years, thousands of dollars, and now the price of belonging to my own family had been announced out loud at roughly $80 a plate, plus wine, plus lobster, plus the special kind of emotional charge that comes with being the child they only call when something needs to be paid for. I looked at my father's hands, still folded, still steady. I looked at my mother's eyes, still warm, still performing. I looked at Brooke, who was already scrolling again, because as far as she was concerned, the decision had been made. I looked at Nathan, standing near the service station, watching with the careful attention of a young man who knew something important was happening at his table, even if he was not sure what it was yet. Then I looked at my sparkling water, half full, catching the candlelight like a small, quiet promise I had made to myself. I placed my napkin on the table. Then I smiled. "Let me go take care of things," I said, and stood up. Mom exhaled. Aunt Linda pressed a hand to her chest. Dad unfolded his hands. Every single one of them thought the same thing. Finally. Here is what 15 years behind a host stand teaches you. The person who controls the check controls the room. My family thought they controlled it. They had chosen the restaurant, set the table, ordered the food, gathered the audience, and delivered the demand. They had 16 people, 2 bottles of wine, and 3 years of pressure on their side. I had 2 sentences and a waiter named Nathan. If a quiet boundary has ever changed your whole life, if you have ever walked into a room where everyone expected you to fold and you did not, make sure you subscribe. You are going to want to see how this lands. I did not walk toward the front register. I walked toward the service station at the back of the dining room, where Nathan was organizing check presenters and a floor manager named David was reviewing a ticket. David wore the standard uniform, black shirt, black tie, earpiece. And he had the look of a man who had spent enough years in restaurants to calmly handle whatever walked up to him. So I walked up to him. "Excuse me, David." He turned with a professional smile. "How can I help?" I kept my voice low, not dramatic, not secretive, just the kind of voice you use David ran my card, handed me the receipt, and said quietly, "I'll present the table's check in about 10 minutes, once dessert is cleared." Perfect. I walked back to the table, sat down, picked up my water, and took a slow sip. Brooke was arguing with Cousin Tyler about a reality show. Aunt Linda was telling Uncle Greg about her neighbor's fence dispute. Mom was watching me with the careful attention of someone who believed the check had been handled. Dad was leaning back with his arms crossed, satisfied. 16 people eating dessert, finishing the last of a $400 bottle of wine, waiting for a bill they had no intention of seeing. I set my glass down and waited with them. Those 10 minutes were the most peaceful part of my evening. The table did not know it yet, but the meal was already over in every way that mattered. The food had been eaten. The wine was gone. The request had been made. And the answer had already been delivered in a language none of them spoke. I sat at my end of the table and listened to my family talk. Aunt Linda complained about the cost of mulch. Uncle Greg told a fishing story that seemed to have no ending. Brooke took a selfie with the remains of the souffle. Mom laughed at something Cousin Megan said, a real laugh, the kind that crinkled her eyes and made her sound, for exactly 3 seconds, like the woman who used to sing Dolly Parton in the kitchen. I almost felt something. Almost. Then I looked at Dad. He was checking his phone under the table, jaw tight, focused in the way people get when they are waiting for news they do not want to receive. And I remembered the message I had read on Brooke's phone. "Diana can carry us through spring. She has more than enough." My sparkling water caught the candlelight again. I watched the bubbles rise and disappear, one by one, each tiny break in the surface going unnoticed by everyone around me. I thought about 17-year-old Diana in her apron, balancing 4 plates along her forearm, learning to smile through the ache in her shoulders. That girl would have paid. That girl would have pulled out her card, covered the entire table, called it love, gone home, stood under the shower, and told no one how much it hurt. I was not that girl. Nathan appeared at the edge of the alcove, and before he even took his first step, I already knew exactly whose chair he was walking toward. He placed the leather check presenter, embossed with the Belvedere's logo, directly in front of my father. Not in the center of the table, not beside me, right in front of Raymond Mayfield, the man who had made the reservation, the man whose card was already on file, the man who had told the waiter to put everything on his card 2 hours earlier. The conversation at the table went out like a candle in a cold draft. Dad stared at the leather folder for 2 full seconds. I could almost see the thought moving across his face. The check was supposed to go to Diana. The check was supposed to go to Diana. The check is in front of me. Mom's eyes widened. She looked at me, then at the check, then back at me again. And for the first time all night, her polished expression cracked just enough for me to see the numbers running behind it. "Diana," she started. Dad recovered first. He was good at recovering. He had spent 63 years avoiding the appearance of being caught off guard. He picked up the check presenter, opened it with a casual flick, and did not look at the total. He could not look at the total, because if he looked at it in front of 16 people, the performance would end right there. "I've got it," he said, pulling his credit card from his wallet with the same 2-finger flourish he had used earlier. He handed it to Nathan without breaking eye contact with me. "We're celebrating, remember?" Nathan took the card. "I'll be right back, sir." He said it gently, the way people in restaurants speak when they already know what is coming and the guest does not. Dad leaned back, crossed his arms, and smiled at me with the confidence of a man who still believed his card would rescue the moment. Nathan returned 4 minutes later. He stood beside my father's chair, leaned down, and spoke at a volume meant to be discreet. But the table had gone so quiet, you could hear the ice shift in a glass. "I'm sorry, sir, the card isn't going through." Nobody moved. Dad's smile stayed in place for 1 more second, like a light that remains on right after the switch is flipped. Then it disappeared. "Run it again," he said. Nathan nodded and walked away. He came back 2 minutes later, same careful lean, same gentle voice. "I'm sorry, sir. It's still not going through. Would you like to try another card?" Dad reached for his wallet. His fingers moved through the slots. 1 card, then another. Then a third he pulled from behind his driver's license like a final option he had hoped he would not need. He handed it to Nathan. The table stayed silent. 16 people. No forks moving, no glasses lifting, no laughter, Just the sound of Raymond Mayfield's 63 years of pride folding itself into a wallet he could not close quickly enough. Nathan came back a third time. He did not need to say a word. His face said enough. Dad looked at Nathan. Then he looked at me. Not with anger, not yet. With the exposed expression of a man who had just realized in front of everyone whose opinion mattered to him that the safety net he had been counting on was no longer there. And the ground was exactly as hard as he had always feared. He looked at me the way someone looks at the last boat leaving the dock. I picked up my sparkling water, took a sip, and set it down. I don't owe you. I never did. Dad's chair scraped back against the hardwood with a sound like paper tearing. Diana. His voice was low, controlled, shaking at the edges. What did you do? I didn't do anything, Dad. Your card didn't go through. That is between you and your bank. You were supposed to... He stopped himself, but not fast enough. The unfinished sentence hung over the table where everyone could hear what he had almost said. You were supposed to pay. Mom started crying, not quietly, not privately, the kind of crying that fills a room and asks nearby tables to choose a side. After everything we've done for you, she said. After I carried you, how could you just sit there and... What did you do for me, Mom? My voice stayed level. I did not raise it. I did not lean forward. I stayed in my chair with both hands around my water glass. Tell me, in front of everyone, what did you do for me in the last 3 years? Brooke slapped her hand against the table. This is so typical. You always have to make everything about you. Aunt Linda reached for my arm. Diana, dear, your father is clearly humiliated. Can't you just... No. One word. I said it the way I would say it to a vendor who tried to change an invoice after delivery. Clear, final, without apology. Then Dad broke. Not with anger this time, with something worse. His voice dropped, and for one brief, terrible, honest moment, he sounded like a man standing in a dark house with no idea where to go next. Diana, please, we're sinking. I saw him then. I saw the frightened man behind the performance, the father who had lost his business, his confidence, and the image of himself he had been trying so hard to protect. The man who could not say the truth out loud until his credit card said it for him. I saw him, and it hurt. Then he added, "And you'd just let us?" And the hurt stopped. Because even in that moment, he was still reaching for my wallet instead of my hand. I stood up, not quickly, not dramatically, just the way you stand when the decision is already made and you do not need permission from the room to leave. Dad, I'm sorry you're struggling, I mean that. Then I gestured toward the table, the empty platters, the turned-over wine bottles, the 16 faces staring at me like I was the problem in a story they had been practicing all week. But this is not asking for help. This is a setup. You did not invite me here to make amends. You invited me here to make a payment. Mom's tears shifted into something sharper. That is not fair, Diana. We just wanted you back. You wanted me back for what I could cover, Mom. I read the messages. Her face changed. I said the words clearly. She can carry us through spring. She has more than enough. The table went pale. Brooke's face lost its color. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad looked down at the tablecloth. If you need real help, I will sit down with you and a financial counselor, and we can figure out a plan. No tricks, no audience, no lobster. But I am not paying this bill. I did not order it. I was not told about it, and I do not owe it to you. I paused. I do not owe you. I never did. Nobody spoke. I picked up my purse, then I looked at my mother and said the last thing I would ever say to her at that table. You always told me family takes care of family, so why was I the only one who ever did? Then I walked toward the door, past the busser, past the hostess, past the heavy glass doors with the brass handles. Nathan caught up to me near the coat check. Ma'am? He was holding my receipt. Thank you, he said quietly. And he meant it. I touched his shoulder. You're doing great, I told him again. Then I walked out. The parking lot was quiet. Thursday evening. Warm air. Cicadas beginning to hum in the landscaped trees that made the Belvedere look like it belonged somewhere more important than the end of a strip mall. I sat in my car with the engine off and the window down. The sticky note was still pressed to my steering wheel. One dinner, then home. One dinner. I pulled my phone from my purse and opened the family group chat. The messages were already pouring in. Mom, Aunt Linda, Brooke, cousins I had not heard from in years, all of them typing at once. A flood of exclamation points, blame, and the particular kind of outrage that comes from people who know the truth has just stepped into the room. I did not read any of it. I scrolled to the bottom, tapped Leave Group, and watched the notification appear. Diana has left the chat. I set my phone on the passenger seat. Then I started the engine and drove home in the same silence I had driven there in. Except this time, the silence was not nervous. It was mine. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. No one called that night, or the next day, or the day after that. The family group chat continued without me. I know that because cousin Megan, the one who had sent me that birthday text, reached out separately a week later. I just wanted you to know, she wrote, that was the most honest thing anyone has done at a family dinner in 20 years. I am sorry I was part of it. Megan was the only one who apologized. 3 weeks later, Brooke texted me, not to apologize, to ask if I could help her with the first and last month's rent for a new apartment. I replied with the name of a financial counseling service and wished her well. She did not respond. Through Megan, I learned the rest in pieces over the following months. Dad's contracting business had closed 18 months before the dinner. 2 commercial projects had gone wrong, and he had never recovered from them. Mom had been covering minimum payments on 4 credit cards with a home equity line that was already maxed out. The house went on the market in July. They moved into a smaller rental in a town 30 minutes south. Brooke took a job answering phones at a dentist's office. None of that was what I wanted for them, not one part of it, but all of it came from choices they had made long before I ever walked into the Belvedere, and none of it was mine to repair. I did what I promised at the table. 6 weeks later, I called Dad and offered to sit down with him and a financial counselor. He hung up. I have not called again, but the offer still stands. I learned that the most expensive thing you can buy is other people's comfort with your silence. And the night I stopped paying for it was the night I finally understood what freedom felt like. That is my story. 16 seats, 1 glass of water, and a credit card that said the truth out loud when nobody else would. If you have ever been treated like the family bank, hear me clearly. Helping is a choice. It is not a debt. And a boundary does not have to be loud to be unbreakable. Share this with someone who needs to hear it.